Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Jay Jewel. It's kind of weird seeing me in a video form, but I thought considering I have absolutely nothing better to do, I would start uploading semi regularly on YouTube again. It's been a while since I've been able to do this, and so having this extra time on my hands, if you know why, um, it would be nice to be able to start going over some of my picks heading into NAIC and some stuff that me and my group have been talking about, as well as online tournament results that have shown a lot differently than we originally anticipated the format was going to be. With the release of Dragapult EX, everybody thought that deck was going to absolutely take control of the format. Everybody was so hyped, but when it comes to Limitless Online reports, it's got one of the lowest win rates of all decks combined. It's just not performing as well as people thought it would, and maybe that's because it doesn't have the right partner yet, or maybe it's simply not as good as we thought it was. Maybe another Reshiram, Zekrom, or Rayquaza VMAX type of deal. But, we'll see. Maybe somebody will cook something up here for NAIC, but right now, I want to go over a few decks that I would keep on my radar if I was heading into NAIC, things that I would put my hands into to test. Unfortunately, from the looks of everything, and I'm not one to give up. All right, you already know where this is going. I'm not one to give up on Arceus as a whole. He's my boy, but unfortunately. Unfortunately, in this format, it does not seem that Arceus is nearly as good of a play into events as it was the prior formats, even if you guys will say it wasn't that good of a pick. But it may have its time a little bit later. Arceus is dying down, as well as Charizard dying down. A lot more Lugia, a lot more control. And the new kid on the block, Raging Bolt Ogerpon, all having pretty great matchups into Zard. It feels like it's just not Zard's time right now, which is good, being able to dethrone the king with a couple decks that make it feel like the format isn't as linear. But to start things off, I am going to be taking a look at 4 lists that I think have some serious potential to either be tweaked. These are just online lists that people have piloted to success here recently. So I'm going to take a couple looks at a couple of these lists and give my ideas and thoughts on them and talk about where I feel like they're good at in the meta and where I feel like they kind of struggle with. So starting off, Mr. Ron Sunskit. He piloted this deck to a pretty high finish at one of the recent online tournaments, so shout out Mr. Ron. But he played Lugia V-Star. Weirdly enough, Lugia has always kind of been that deck that's like, at first it was really good, but then for a long time, it felt like it was missing some key components that it needed to be able to succeed. Obviously, that's not true with Brandon Bond getting second, and also Lugia getting top 4 this past weekend at LA. But it feels less like you have to hit the correct combination of heads or tails to do well, because you have a lot of different lines into matchups now that you didn't have before due to legacy energy and the deck's overall consistency increasing due to Carmine. Might be pronounced Carmine, I don't know. But currently, the Lugia lists are running a 3-3 Lugia line, which feels good, at least in this format. At least you're not trying to set up nearly as many Lugias. There's not a lot of threat to take it out turn 1. The only threat really right now is Miraidon or Raging Bolt. Both of those can take a turn 1 knockout going second. But overall, I think into most of your matchups, 3 Lugia will do you just fine. Having access to Legacy Energy means that we can comfortably play hands without having to attach basic energies, which was, I feel like, the problem with the hands version of the build prior. Legacy Energy opens up a lot of different lines. This list only playing the line 4 hands. But Legacy Energy also allows you to recycle Luminion, which is good. It's just a basic Legacy Energy. If you don't know, it's a rainbow energy, so it counts as any energy, but it can only provide one at a time. And if this card is attached to a Pokemon knocked out by damage, that player takes 1 fewer prize card. This effect of your Legacy Energy can only be applied once per game. So if you were to use, like, let's say, Luminion, and Aqua return the energy back into deck, you could then again use the Legacy Energy on hands and apply the effect of the secondary effect on the Legacy Energy, my apologies, to basically make it to where Iron Hands is only worth 1 prize card, which is huge because Iron Hands being valued at 2 means that a lot of the times trading 2 for 2 means that you were hoping that they weren't going to take the KO on the Iron Hands. And if they did, you had to have a 2 prize card return, which a lot of the times it was kind of difficult for that, like, for example, against Zard. So, like, having access to the Legacy Energy means that you can take the early KOs with hands, and even if they do return KO, they're only taking 1 in return. So you can try to spike them with a Cinccino, you can try to spike them with a, whatever you can get your hands on, mostly Cinccino there, to take that KO back. We're still sticking with the 4 Archeops, which is important. You need to get them in the discard. Mr. Ron played a 2-1 Minccino split. I don't understand the secondary Minccino just simply because the call for family is so important. A lot of the times it allows you to make plays, like less greedy plays when Ultra Balling away early game. Allows you to basically have no Lugia on board and then get the Lugia out. And it allows you to get 2 Lugias if you have to, basically securing the Archeops for next turn if you had the cards possible. Where I think this deck gained the initial increase was the access to Blood Moon Ursaluna, basically being a Radiant Charizard but is splashable at anything. This card with V-Guard survives a hit from Giratina. It survives a lot of different attacks just due to its high HP, and it's able to be a late game swinger that just might not die. So, like, on the turnaround, you have a lot better like late game attacks. Hitting 240 is good. Allows you to take late game 2 prize KOs with not a lot of energy being devoted to that Blood Moon Ursaluna there. The new supporter for this deck is Carmen, which is much needed for the deck's consistency going first. If you go first, you may use this card during your first turn, discard your hand, draw 5. That card can come in a lot of handy when it comes to getting those Archeops in the discard turn 1, allowing you, or if you open Carmen, you can kind of just throw your hand away and get a new one on turn 1, which is something that this deck wasn't able to do. It wasn't able to see a lot of cards going first. It also gives more meaning to being able to use Luminion on turn 1 to get, like, if you start a kind of dead hand with the only option being Luminion for supporter, you don't necessarily just immediately die out. Still rocking the 1-1 Collapsed and Mazik Goza. That feels fine. Playing 1 Jock, 2 Iona, 1 Serena, 3 Boss. I like the split here. I don't know if going into this format, Serena is nearly as good. But having the spot open, having the draw support to be able to get rid of the Archeops is also still really important. So I understand why it's in the deck. I do understand why it's being cut from a 2 of to a 1 of for access to Carmine. 3 DTE, 4 Gift Energy, 4 Jet, 1 Legacy, 4 Mist, and 1 V-Guard. This energy split I think is good. 3 DTE is a little scary, but also, it's what it is. You got to fit them all in somewhere. 4 Mist might be a little excessive. I might see myself cutting a Mist energy for a 4th DTE, just because a lot of your attacks, like this being able to hit 220 is still good. Having access to Mew EX is still good. Just late game, having access to 2 energies is really nice. So overall, when it comes to Lugia, I think it's in a pretty good spot. It's got good matchups into Raging Bolt. I feel like as long as you get past the turn 1, as long as you get past their turn 1 KO, you get 2 Lugias down, I think you're fine. You can trade pretty evenly with 1 prizers from there. It's got a pretty good control matchup. And with access to hands so early in the game, I feel like it's got a pretty good Guardy matchup. We'll go over those lists here in a second. But I do feel like Lugia is shaping up to be one of the top decks of the format as long as you flip the right combination of coins and your Great Balls hit properly. So, yeah, nice list from Mr. Ron. Only maybe 1, maybe 2 things I would change. But also as somebody who's not played a lot of Lugia, I can't really say much about it. Moving on now to, I don't want to mispronounce this because they were Japanese, but moving on to Guardy. Shout out this person right here. They got second at a 200+ person tournament with Guardy Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory basically just gives you a lot of access to being able to move damage, so you can basically hit bigger numbers with things like Drift Bloom, right? Being able to load this up, move 30, and then put more energy on it to put more damage on it, basically just as a free power tablet for your Guardies. It also just allows you to progressively move damage off, whereas like if I were to attach to Gardevoir and retreat, I would have 40 on there. Being able to move that with Monkey Dory is pretty nice. Still rocking the one of Fluttermane. I still think this card is really good. It's basically just a late game answer to Lost Box. You Iono them low, shove Fluttermane in the active and start Hex Hurling. Hope they don't hit their Choruses. The 4-4-2 line of Guardy is pretty common. Mimikyu is pretty good. Cresselia is something we're seeing pop back up into Guardy lists because you can use Cresselia to snipe if they don't have Jirachi, so it's really good early game. I don't feel like as good late game as it is early game. It can also just be used to kind of heal your Pokemon to be able to attack overall again. But really that only helps if you're attacking with Guardy in this deck, because this and this both require damage counters. So Screamtail and Drifloom, that Monkey Dory play works on both of them. Still running one Radiant Greninja, one Manaphy. Keep your Curlias and Ralts safe, from the big guy Radiant Greninja here. We are rocking 4 Buddy Poffin, 2 Counter Catcher, 2 Earthen Vessel here. Pretty standard. 2 Vessel seems a little high, but I'm not entirely sure. I think 2 Vessel just means easier access to your Dark Energies for your Monkey Dories when you need them. 1 Heavy Ball, 1 Hyper Aroma. This card is really good in Guardy. I think it is between Hyper Aroma and Reset Stamp, or as you may know it, Unfair Stamp. Hyper Aroma just lets you search your deck for 3 evolutions. That came out last set, so you all know what that does. So you can basically get your Curlias out much faster. It's an Arven searchable 3 Curlia Nest Ball, basically. So that's pretty good. 2 Nest Ball to be able to get stuff like your Monkey Dory and, your Cresselia and your Ninja and your Manaphy. Manaphy can be grabbing off Buddy Coffin, but also getting your access to Screamtail. 2 Artisan, just Consistency Stadium to be able to get your Ralts out early and get your attackers out late game. 4 Arven to be able to search for Evo TM early and your Bravery Charms and your Hyper Aromas and all of your item cards. Boss, 1 Singular Boss, which is really normal in this deck. 4 Iono, also normal. 1 Turo. The energy split being 7-2. I feel like that's fine because most Guardy lists are running 8 energy prior. So it's just cutting 1 down for a Dark. It's energy you can just discard off of Ninja, retreat with. Mostly there for the Monkey Dory. I could see potentially it being maybe Luminous, but also having access to Earthen Vessel to be able to get it out earlier is pretty nice. So overall, I think Guardy takes pretty good matchups into Raging Bolt, It's got a pretty good Lugia matchup overall. I don't know how much hands affects that. You just kind of have to set up early, respond to the hands. That's what Hyper Aroma helps with. Hyper Aroma helps you respond earlier. No rare candy means that you're basically relying on this Evo TM to get that set up and going. So as long as you can respond to the Iron Hands as soon as possible, after they take the first two, I think you're fine, because you were attacking with one prizers, so I think you're fine. Prigi control is always a problem, but access to Turo is nice, and having Palpat, so you can probably maneuver around that. Flutter Mane allows you to retreat under block. This list doesn't play block, but yeah. So I definitely think that we are cooking with Guardy this format. I think it might be one of the top tier decks, and if you have any updates or anything, leave a comment down below and just let me know where you think Guardy is sitting at right now. Moving on, we got Matthew 44's Pidgey Stall deck. Pidgey Stall has been very prevalent this entire format. It had just won LA. Shout out Lucas Singh, my boy. But going into this new format, I feel like it's got a lot of answers to a lot of the problems with this format, except for against Ogre Pawn Raging Bolts. That matchup seems pretty rough, but I feel like you can manage it. Get rid of their switch early, lock stall inactive. So one of the new additions to the deck is the access to a high HP Mawile, basically. You have access to Wellspring Mask Ogre Pawn, having access to Sob. You can trap in the active with a Pokemon that doesn't have 90 HP. It is a 2-prizer though, but you also have access to take prizes with Torrential Pump, being able to theoretically remove double threat off the board after a couple hits early game with stuff like Luxray and stuff like Blood Moon Ursaluna. So I feel like that's pretty good. Pidgey Stall has evolved into having options for attackers that have big HP that allow you to survive. So basically allowing these big HP basics to have access to stuff like Hero's Cape and Bravery Charm, to utilize the loop of Penny to be able to force these Pokemon back to the bench. So I think that this deck is unfortunately always in a pretty good spot. Also, I just realized that Lucas Ding did not win with Pidgeot control. He won with Charizard control. So what I meant to say is shout out to the other people who made top 8, which there were 3 of them that top 8'd with Pidgeot control. So Lucas Ding won with Charizard control, which is still pretty cool. But yeah, having access to Ogre Pawn, having access to Blood Moon or Saluna, like I mentioned before, to be able to just surprise take a knockout late game, pair that with like an Iono or an Airy to be able to stop them from doing things. Early game Luxray to take out key crucial cards in matchups that you need to remove trainer cards from the hand. Having Chi-Yu to loop late game once they're out of resources, you can just thin their entire deck down to try to hit those last few key resources that you know they have hiding. Great Tusk is just a big wall. He's basically the new Wailord. He's basically just big enough that he's going to survive pretty much any hit from things that, aren't Raging Bolt. So he's pretty good. Radiant Charizard, obviously, to swing late game. Sandshrew is here, and he's ready to sand screen everybody. It stops things like trainer cards in your opponent's discard pile can't be put back into their deck. So it stops stuff like Palpad. It stops Silene. If that was the case, you can't Silene in stuff like Rare Candy, so that helps in the Chen Pao matchup, which I haven't seen a lot of Chen Pao here recently. And then obviously you have your Pidgey line, which is like the bare bones to the deck, being able to search any cards you want, having access to that. Still rocking 3 counter catchers, playing a 2-line of Rare Candy, and the stadium of choice is Calamitous Wasteland. My apologies. Making the retreat cost of basic non-fighting Pokemon in play 1 colorless more. So it's just another stall tactic to try to lock things inactive. Nothing really new when it comes to trainer cards. There weren't a lot of good control trainer cards. There were just a lot of good cards that could be put in control. So I think overall this deck has a good matchup into a lot of the meta. Just dodge Raging Bolt. It's crazy to say Raging Bolt is good. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Dom from the Shuffle Squad for coming up with Lost Box Raging Bolt. Not the same, but still long neck giraffe guy. So that's pretty cool. Next we got Dustin Keller. He's a local of mine. Shout out the boy Dustin Keller if you're watching this. I love you. And he is playing Raging Bolt, but with a 1 of Quarterstone Mask Ogerpon. This gets through your stuff like your Mimikyus and like any sort of like other effects that might be blocking this from attacking or these guys from attacking. It's also just good into, a lot of things. Like you can put them in positions with this ability that stops ability Pokemon from doing damage. So relevant things for that is like Blood Moon or Saluna. Lugia V-Star can't attack into it. There's a lot of other things like Guardy EX can't attack into it. There's just a lot of weird situations where that can come up. He is playing 3 copies of Teal Mask Ogerpon using the new ability Teal Dance, which allows you to attach a grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attach any energy to your Pokemon in this way, draw the card. Good for consistency, good for getting energy on the board, and good for powering up Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt is the weirdest Pokemon I've ever seen. He is strange. He is built different, and that is all that we can really say about him. He's built thick with a 240 HP. We thought 230 was bad on things like Iron Hands and Moon, but let me tell you, 240 is here, and it's here to stay, unfortunately. But with the first attack, you have built-in consistency. Discard your hand, draw 6. Putting energy in the discard pile for being able to use Sadas, and Bellowing Thunder, which is 70 times every energy that you discard from your Pokemon. It's the same thing as Chen Pao, just 10 more damage. And it can be any color, any type. So that's why we play the Fighting, the Grass, and the Electric. Have access to the use of Ogerpon, and also have access to the use of Slitherwing. Slitherwing is a good way to, again, deal with things like Mimikyu, a good way to deal with things like, I don't know, anything that's stopping your 2 prizers from attacking. So that's good. It's also just a Iron Hands killer. He just swings and knocks out Iron Hands. He also, can knock out an Arceus V if you run into that problem, anything like that. Although Arceus should not be a rough matchup for you if you were to hit it. So overall, that's fine. Keller did choose to play Unfair Stamp in this list, and he swears that it is the optimal A-spec for the list. A lot of lists are running Prime Catcher. Prime Catcher is good, and I think Unfair Stamp is good too. They just have different utility. Playing 3 switch cards here to try to not make sure that nothing gets locked. Playing 1 copy of the new Jamming Tower Stadium. All tools infect, both yours and your opponents have no effect. So there are a lot of times where, like let's say somebody were to attach a Survival Brace, or they were to attach a Ancient Booster Capsule. Just numbers that you cannot hit in 1 turn. This helps you get around. So having access to that, as well as the 2 Pokestops for consistency, allows you to basically churn through your deck, hit big numbers. It's basically the new Roaring Moon, except for you don't instant knock out things, but you can very easily hit 280 on your coming turn, your first turn, going second, actually. And also, if you're wondering why I have 2 decks named Rudy Wade used my live account to go play in LA. Shout out Rudy Wade. Go listen to his music. I'll have a link in bio. He's my boy. So, again, we're playing 1 copy of Squawk. Being able to discard early. It's a turbo deck, so, being able to see those cards, get to those Sadas, and get to those energies to continue to churn through your deck with the Ogre Pawn. It's just a consistency thing. He's playing 4 copies of Energy Retrieval. Again, 1 copy of Energy Retrieval basically can draw you 4 cards with a combination of Greninja plus Ogre Pawn. And if you're able to already have a grass, you can draw 5 cards just straight up from that. I mean, Greninja draws 2, so you can draw 3 or 4 just from that combination. Me forgetting what Greninja does because I'm an ARC bot. My apologies. Free me. Anyway, though, I just wanted to hop on here because I know that this video might be a little uncoordinated. I am moving right now. As you can tell, there's like nothing behind me. I am moving. There is some stuff going on in my life that I need to help be taken care of. So if it's a little inconsistent, I'm sorry. I'm working on it, and I am very excited to keep uploading. This is a start. It's no way, shape, or form good. If you guys have any sort of advice, any sort of criticism you want to give me, I'm more than willing to listen and oblige because I want to make this content as best as possible. So thank you guys for watching. These are just some of my picks heading into the North American International Championship. If you're going and you're looking for any sort of help, I am opening my coaching back up here soon, so that link will also be in the bio, or you can head to my Twitter. It's will also be in the bio there. And you are more than welcome to hit me up for any sort of information, anything like that, and I will help you the best I can. Also, huge shout out to 88 Card House. Let me get their logo right here. For sponsoring me and allowing me to continue to play. Although I am taking a short hiatus, they are still helping me get to Worlds in this really rough time of my life. So thank you guys so much over at 88 Card House. I would not be able to play this game without you. Go ahead and check us out over at the kitchen. Those links will be down below. And thank you guys. More content will be uploaded tomorrow. I'm going to be uploading a video going over the Ogre Pawn deck. I'm going to be playing a bunch of games with it on live, and I'm going to be talking over some plays, and I'm probably going to do that with a bunch of decks that I feel like are good heading into NAIC. Even though I am not going, I'm going to try to help out the best I can to people who are attending it for the first time. See you guys.